Yo, what's up? What's up? What's up? This is episode 108, 108 of the Collective Podcast. I am AC from LA. He is not here. I know you're not surprised, so it's cool. Yeah, shout out to my guy Rodney. Um, who knows if he's gonna show up. Now he just tried to show up, but that's what happens. Like I told him, like I've been telling him for like a couple years now. It's not the move to show up at 7:58. 7:59. Now when you're a guest, that's different. Shout out to Sam. Show up. Thanks for coming through. But Rod showed up with like audio issues and video issues, and so here we go. What's up, SG3? How you doing today, brother?
Man, good morning, brother. Man, actually, I keep getting 2 invites from you weekly. So I was on the other invite, which apparently was from last week.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to come into this invite in order to join. But everything is moving, bro.
Okay, that's what's up. So, okay? So we're gonna try this guy again. Let's see. So of course we can hear his TV. Does that make sense? What's up, Brian?
Hey man, what you fussing about now?
I mean, I'm not fussing, but let's talk about it. It's just like dating. Like I tell them, like I have all these first dates, and it's like I'm a very punctual person. That's something that's important to me. So if you know and you're not late, and you're not on time, and you don't communicate that you're going to be late, not that you didn't communicate it, like you are just late. So we know that about you. We pretty much accept that. What's up, Nisha? Good morning.
When I popped in the studio before, you had your head turned, so I was having a crappy connection again for some odd reason.
No.
And
I saw you at 7:58 and 45 seconds. But what I keep trying to profess to you is that's late because you had a crappy connection and you're back at 8:01. So show up at like 7:45, fix all that.
Yeah, but I had a crappy connection before 7:58.
But but right,
it was bad before that. Just getting to StreamYard.
So what time? Okay, so what time did you start all that? Since you want to press, what time did you start all that?
Listen, I'm going to interject right here, gentlemen. We can talk about this. We can talk about this offline. I'm refereeing this one right here. Talk about it offline.
Anyway, so all right, what's up? This is episode 108 of the Collective Podcast. Sam showed up again. Sam, thanks for coming through. Rod showed up.
Yes, sir.
And here we are. So we're back. We're back. We appreciate Sam coming on. This is now 3 weeks in a row. And so this is 3 times the amount that Milkbox came on after he left, because he only came back for one, or Milk Carton, not Milkbox, Milk Carton. He only came back for one episode. I think that was that New Year's Eve episode, or New Year's Eve episode 21. And so so Sam's hanging out. Shout out to Nisha, who this was the wrong post. So when she said take the test, she was not talking to us. So she wasn't really trying to watch the podcast, I guess. She was just trying to say something to her husband.
She's trying to be funny.
Oh,
she's trying to be funny, right?
Oh, well, let's give her some applause.
Yeah.
Yay, that was funny.
She just said something before I walked out.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, listen. Shout out to Nisha. Even if she doesn't stay for the podcast, shout out to her for coming through momentarily. So again, it's episode 108. This is Saturday, June 24th, 2023. Got a couple things to get into, but first I want to know how you guys' weekends were last weekend, and then how your weeks were. So Rob, we'll start off with you. How was everything last weekend, and how did everything go this week?
Man, these last couple of weeks have been super long. Took a physical, got poked about 30 times because she couldn't find my vein. but worked a little basketball. But other than that, everything's good.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that. Sam, how was that Juneteenth celebration last week? The festival.
Man, it was literally on fire. It's so hot out here right now. It is oppressively hot.
Okay.
But man, it was a great time. Jazz fest, and then our headline was this steel brass band from New Orleans, from the Sixth Ward, man, and they really showed up and showed out. So it was a great celebration, as mentioned last week. 40 Black-owned businesses were out there as vendors. We had food trucks, and it was free for the community. So it was a great time. We had media coverage. So we really, really met the mark in terms of promoting Juneteenth, bringing awareness to Juneteenth. And man, it was great to see people that look like us, of course, but then other people to come out and embrace and support. So it was good time.
That's awesome. All right. Well,
Yep.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. For me, last week, Kayla was back with Brianna. Well, for the weekend, last weekend, she was still with my sister. It was my week, and so I didn't have her. And then this week she was with Brianna. So I've just been kind of by myself. I had some lacrosse this week, some men's post grad lacrosse, which is kind of like what we call pro-am basketball. In lacrosse, we call it men's club. So I had that on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then I've just been gearing up I have a Drew League game today. So yeah, I've just been kind of taking it chill. No dates this week, just relaxing. I feel like I'm in a great place mentally and emotionally. Nobody was late to anything before Rodney messed it all up for the podcast.
Hey, real quick update. No dates as of right now, but the day is still early. So, anything is bound to happen.
True.
So
True.
So that's fair, but listen, you know what I am right now? Mentally exhausted. I'm not even trying. I'm taking a break from the apps. You know how people they're gonna take a break from social media. I'm taking a break from the apps. I'm just chilling. So no prospects. I'm just hanging out. So that is that. All right, let's get into it. Episode 108 of the Collective Podcast. Anybody want to comment on the unfortunate situation with the Titan submersive? The Titan submersive was that unit that would take you on a tour of the Titanic wreckage, ironically. And it had been going for a couple years or maybe even a few years. And this time around, and it costs $250,000 per person to get on. And this time around, I believe the founder was on board with the 4 guests. So those were 5 people. And this submersive, I know you guys all know this, and I'm talking about our viewers. I know you know this by now, but it imploded less than 2 hours into the journey. Imploded. So there's just wreckage and debris. So they were going to view the Titanic wreckage, if you will, and that was wreckage because they hit an iceberg. But then this became something similar to wreckage. It's not really called wreckage because you didn't have a wreck, but they imploded, and so there's debris. And the only humane thing about it is that they died instantly upon the implosion. But beyond that, it's just horrible. And then I hear that there was a 19-year-old on there that didn't really want to go. And his dad was like pressed to have him go, like, oh, it's like make it for Father's Day. Da, 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 da. And yeah. So both of them are gone. So that's tough. You guys got anything on that?
I think the tough part, the difficult part is when you have an accident like this, because I'll say it's an accident. They didn't intend on this happening.
Yeah.
It's human nature to play Monday morning quarterback because you know what field I work in terms of news.
Right.
And even in the newsroom, it's been, well, why did they go do it? And I'm like, if that's your thing, if you're a person that parasails, that's what you do. If you're a person that mountain climbs, that's what you do. If you're a person that rides a motorcycle, that's what you do. So, I think, you know, we need to shy away from being necessarily Monday morning quarterback, because
Mhm.
that vessel had gone on a couple of other expeditions or journeys as well. So I think if you're in that space, if that's what interests you, I think that's what you would do. That's something that would be, not far fetched. Now, maybe for us, the common viewer or common person that doesn't have that interest, for us was like, well, why would they do that? But I'm like, if that's what you do, if that's what you're into, that's something that I could see happening. Prayers out to the families of those individuals that, came to their demise. And, it's unfortunate, but I think, hopefully, and, I don't know a lot about that industry, but hopefully in terms of, because I don't think this will be the last expedition to see the wreckage of the Titanic, but hopefully there'll be more tests, and perhaps even, I don't know that vessel particularly or specifically, but hopefully, before anyone else decides to explore there, there'll be more tests and there'll be a different way about doing it so that no one else comes to their demise as a result. But, it's unfortunate anytime you lose life. And this isn't like they were out doing something that was a bad thing. It was just they wanted to explore, they wanted to see it. And, prayers out to the families that have been, affected or impacted by this unfortunate accident.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. You got anything, Rod? You don't have to.
I didn't know until recently much about it. I hadn't kept up with it. I just knew that, you know, it something happened with the submarine. I just hadn't really taken up to. I just didn't want to hear any more bad news, so I just didn't even. I didn't even bother getting into it. But I know the details now, and it's just sad, man. I just I don't know. It's another unexpected accident that, well, they're always unexpected, but um, it's sad with the loss of lives and a kid on board. Because I heard different ages. That's why I don't really, like Sam or just said he was 19. Someone else said he was 6. Like I just don't know. So I don't keep up. But loss of life is loss of life, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I appreciate that. And yeah, to Sam's point, I don't. Yeah, I don't judge him. I don't judge him either. Like, first of all, anybody paying the 250, I'm sure it wasn't their last 250, so they had it right. I doubt
Mhm.
anyone like mortgaged their home to go on it, um, or refi their home and to cash out to go on that. And yeah, it's what they do. Whether you do something like rock climbing, mountain climbing, skydiving, bungee jumping, parasailing, hang gliding, um, uh, base jumping. Just people do things that are risky, but it's risk versus reward, right? So yeah, no knock on them at all. I'm literally just saying it's super sad that it happened. I don't have any jokes for it or anything like that. It's just it's all bad. It's all bad. And then it wasn't the first voyage. That's the other thing.
Right.
So, this thing, this submersible, sorry. This submersible was, I don't want to say tried and true, but as close as you can get to tried and true, because there have been actual multiple voyages. And so nothing happened and nothing happened and nothing happened and nothing happened. And then, you know, one time it went out and it lost comms with the main ship for a couple of hours, or depending on who you talk to, it was anywhere from 2 hours to 5 hours. But this was on a different journey, and they allegedly turned off the internet so that people couldn't tweet about it. But then they were found and everything was all good. And so this is just this it's just bad. It's bad. All right, so we can move on from that, and then let's just briefly touch on. Let's go to the NBA because we just had the draft. But let's briefly touch on Sam's favorite topic.
I knew this was coming.
I
I
mean,
knew this was coming.
it's gotta come. So my guy, my cousin, Draymond, says he opted out of his contract, which was expected. Um, because again, they can still sign him for more. It was a $27 million contract. He'd like $100 million over 3 years, and some basketball experts, and I really do mean experts. Rod's least favorite word in sports. Well, actually, in life is expert, and then his least favorite word in sports is upside. So the experts, and I mean experts because they actually played the game at a high level or are playing the game at a high level, feel like he definitely deserves it. I just want to know what my guys think about Draymond and his $100 million challenge. Sam, go.
Well, I knew I was going to be set up for this one, as I said. So I'm sure that you did. I'm sure that Anthony Bartholomew Carter, has reached out to the Golden State Warriors brass, saying, do whatever you need to do in order to make Draymond happy. You made sure personally that Jordan Poole was sent over across the country. Get out of here. You're gone. Beat it, scram.
Go
And
to
so
purgatory.
you are so enthused and happy about that. I've never seen you smile. You probably haven't smiled like this since Kayla was born. That was the last time you smiled like this. So therefore, yeah, kudos to you. Now, in terms of $100 million, you know how I feel about distractions. And I'm sorry, for me, he's a distraction. Yes, he has a lot of dog in him. Yes, he does a lot of the intangibles. But $100 million, I'm not there, but I'm also not an expert. But my opinion, I'm not paying Draymond $100 million. Sorry, that's not happening on my watch. And I just wouldn't do it, because if Draymond was a guy that just went out there and gave it his all and wasn't a distraction and wasn't emotionally, he's an emotional liability. That's what I'll call him. Draymond, the emotional liability, because once his emotion gets ahead of him, there's no scaling back and there's no turning back for him. So no, I don't agree that the Warriors should pay him $100 million over 3 years. That's just me, and I'm gonna stand on that. He can come on the podcast. I'd say it to his face. Sorry, Draymond, I'm not feeling that. I think, if the Warriors want to go to the next level, Draymond should be mindful of that, and hopefully by not being paid $100 million over 3 years, they'll have some more money so they could try to add a couple of more pieces to that puzzle. There we go.
Pick me.
All right. Let's return to the president of the Draymond, or president of the D. Raymond fan club right here. There you go.
There you go. So it's really, I love it. I love the fact that you make a stance and stick with it. I don't like vacillators. I don't like waverers. So it's beautiful. You feel like he shouldn't get it. I feel like he should get it easily. I feel like he's a max player, and I know that causes.
Hey, Rod, for the rest of the podcast, I'm sitting like this. This is me right here. The rest of the podcast.
That causes certain things across the fault line. No, I don't. I think they're so in reality. I think that they're being a lot more cautious with the max contracts now. I really do. I think that the tide has turned, and they only want to give max contracts. Well, I think it's different now. So I don't think he's a max player in this climate. But no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding this time around. I'm kidding. What's up? Shout out to Anthony Cobbs. What's up, AC Sports Live? And go Bruins.
And make sure you read his comment. Come on, man. That's right. That's right, Cobbs. Come on, man. Yeah. Well, let this guy know.
Literally saying it. But the $100 million easily. And here's the thing. It doesn't have to be GS. It could be something as simple as Sacramento. And then, boy, does the tide turn in Northern California. I think it probably does. So you might want to pay him $100 million just so Sacramento doesn't get him. What do you think about that, Sam? Because they're your little brother, But Mike Brown is there, and you know what they call Mike Brown? Sam? They call Mike Brown the Draymond Whisperer.
Yeah,
They call him the
I got
Draymond
that.
Whisperer.
You definitely don't want to let him go to another team in your conference because, yeah, that could be detrimental. But I'm still sticking to my guns to say, nah, if I'm the GM, he's not going to run that play where I'm paying him 33.3 million a season. That's not happening under my watch. Let's get the voice. Listen, on this podcast, I often look at the voice of reason as Rod. So, Rod, can you be the voice of reason and wrap this whole conversation up right here?
Hold
please?
on. The fans asked the question. They asked if Rod can actually be the voice of reason if he's not on time. But no, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Rod. Rod. But it's the Pistons. Like, let's be clear. Let me read this. Dre got an offer from the Pistons for the veteran minimum. We talking about max. Now, if we are making determinations about how we feel about basketball based on what the Pistons are doing, then we all need to go somewhere and jump. AC, come on now. We don't okay. That's not a realistic offer. And it's almost like Sam called up his boys at the Pistons and was like, "Yo, let's piss this dude off and offer him the veteran minimum." Like, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, Anthony Cobbs, and you know that. So yeah, not max, but not the. So we go into the minimum. So we just living in extremes. Stop it. Okay, go ahead, Rod.
It's like this for me. If this team is going to stay as is, then pay him. But for me, if I'm the GM, do I actually think that this team, just because they traded away Jordan Poole, can be better than last year? With the current group, I don't think so. And I think they just don't want to tear it down. They want to let this team just go ahead and play it out. But for me, the team is not going to – they just got too many deficiencies with Clay not playing the same, with Draymond not giving any offense, with Looney not giving any offense. It's just too – and then when Wiggins playing kind of sometimey, I know they feel like, oh, he was away for a long time, but for his dad, but, now he'll have a full season. But honestly, this has been Wiggins' career. He did show up during their championship run that particular year, but throughout his career, the whole body of work, he has disappeared a lot. That was the knock on him, and that's why the team that drafted him let him go in the first place. So,
wait, who are you talking about?
Andrew Wiggins.
Oh my goodness! I thought you were okay. Whew. I thought you were talking about Dre. I was about to drive to your house.
So,
okay, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm not coming to line. Go ahead.
No.
Rod's on tape delay.
So, for me, I would start to think about dismantling this team, because it's just they're old, and they don't play the same, and I don't see them getting better unless they make some kind of move before the season starts to trade somebody and get another offensive threat. I just don't see it. Draymond $33 million, because Chris Paul makes 30, so they got to pay all these people. So I don't know.
Now there's your veteran. Veteran minimum, right there, Cobbs. Chris Paul. Go ahead, Rod.
Mr. Carter.
Yo.
Quick question. Since when is 9 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists?
Let's not do that.
Tell him, Rod. Hold on.
Contract. Here's your answer. I was kidding about the max, but let me answer your question through Rod. Go ahead, Rod. Let's talk about the numbers, Rod, and how important the numbers are, Rod. Come on, let's what you say weekly. Go ahead, say it to Sam so that you can shut this down real quick. I'll say it for you, Rod. The numbers don't always tell the story.
This
The
is true.
numbers don't
I do say
always
that.
tell the
Yeah,
story.
we talked
And
about
we
that
know
last
this.
week. You can pad the numbers. But at some point, and I'm not an analytics type of guy, but at some point you do have to look at, because if you're paying 9.7 rebounds, 7 assists, I know you're partially joking, but deep down inside, it brings you great joy to think that he could possibly be a max guy. That brings you joy. I think you dream about that at night, like, please make Draymond a max guy. But in actuality, that makes zero sense.
So we can always go back to the first max guy that made so much sense with Mike Conley Sr. And then we could just start the conversation there, but we won't, right? So this is what I'll say. I am joking about the max. Like, they're not as irresponsible as they were a couple years ago with max contracts. So when I look at the market and I say, first of all, that he has no peer, but is this enough to get him a max contract? No, not in this climate right now. Had they won a championship this year, he's a max guy. And I wholeheartedly believe that would have mattered, and Bob Myers is probably still there because I feel like the what are they, the Lakers would have opened up, they would have opened up the checkbooks if they would have won this year. They didn't win, but I do feel like he is one of the most important pieces that you have, and I do feel like some of us out there do undervalue him. So not Max, like that's a joke, but like I don't feel like people are seeing his true value, and it transcends those numbers. He is a very selfless player. Like, Rod gets mad at him all the time for not doing more offensively, but we differ on this because I feel like he's doing what is being asked of him. He's being a facilitator. He's being a defender. He's being a disruptor. And I don't mean it the way that you guys mean it. A disruptor on the court in a positive way. Yes, he does bring distractions. And sometimes I look at it like, why are you, like, even me, I look at it like, why are you doing that? And why are you doing it right now? This is a crucial time. But I do feel like these are things that he probably now realizes, okay, I can't always turn it off in times. Well, this is not that same team. We're not as dominant. So I can't have these lapses where I turn on this show because they need me to pay attention and be locked in 102% of the time, which is impossible. So it can't be 98% of the time. And I feel like you're going to see that coming this season. But I know that we're talking about now leading into that. I just feel like he has a really high basketball IQ and he has a lot of talent. And when it's time to put it all together, because he sees what didn't work, and I'm not saying that it's his fault, but he probably could have done a little more. It was going to be the same result this year because they just didn't have enough hogs. But I feel like when you talk about those numbers, they are not the numbers that he could put up. And he does a lot more than those numbers show.
Offensively, he's got to bring more, man. But you can't. I don't know, and that's probably part of my old thinking. But you can't be a max player and only play on one end.
Okay, stop it. So I'm not saying Max, and he doesn't only play on one end. Let's not do that, right? You know that he doesn't. You don't have to score to play.
AC. The tapes don't lie. The dude shies away from a 5-footer.
Okay, so he doesn't shy. You still haven't shown us any tape. And he doesn't shy away from 5-footers, but it's more than just scoring, right? He's not. He's not.
Of all people, I know there's more than just scoring, but he won't take shots. You can't have an offense like that in an offensive-driven league.
And yet they won 4 championships. Okay, so
here's the thing. They're not winning though. They won 4.
They won 2 years. They won literally. And 375 days ago.
And the years they won, he took shots. Even in the biggest games, hold on. Even in the biggest games, the one game in the playoffs this season that he took shots and he scored 19, they easily won. All the other games when he went back to not taking shots from the free throw line or from the top of the circle, they lost. That's a fact.
Right. But when you okay, so well, no, it's not a fact because they made
He
it to
has
the third
lost
round.
his confidence offensively. It's very visible.
Okay, so even if he's lost his confidence as a shooter, when you say that he is an offensive liability, or you say that he only plays on one side of the floor, it's ludicrous. He's
Why is
not
that
just a
ludicrous?
body on. All right, I know you know the game better than this, so I think that this is where we agree to disagree and
We
move on.
disagree. We
Yeah,
disagree.
and then we. All right, so boom. All right, so I'll close it out on that, Sam, by answering you by the numbers don't always tell the story. And we keep talking about Max, and I've come off of Max. Like I've already stated that. So everybody that starts their comments with how can you be a Max player, comma, dot, 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 it doesn't make any sense because I'm not flying the Max flag.
Even if
So
you don't say
so
Max,
you're
I
saying that
mean, he wants.
you're flip flopping. That's what
No,
you're
I'm
doing.
not.
You're
No,
flip
I'm
flopping.
not flip flopping. $100 million. That's what he wants. Then that's what he should get. So let that be the number. Like I'm not gonna ask for more than he's asking for.
Over 4 years.
That's silly.
I give it to him over 4 years, not
Well,
3.
he could have just opted in to get more than that for 1 year because it was
He should have.
27 million.
He
Well,
should have.
why should he have? He's gonna get 100 million. Like why are we talking about this?
Well,
He's going to
and
get
I
it.
know because Dunleavy is gonna mess this thing
Even if
up.
he doesn't, he'll just go to Sacramento. Like just understand, like the Warriors are not the only suitors for this guy. Let's remember that.
They're not.
We're not talking
But
about the Pistons,
but
Mr.
Sacramento
Cobb.
has more money under the cap, and they're young. They can use a good veteran to help Sabonis. They could use that. The Warriors, on the other hand, are aged, and they have too many people not providing offense. So when too many players are not providing offense, and Curry is doing much more, it makes him susceptible to a higher degree of injuries. When you got Clay going 3 for 14 every other night, and Andrew Wiggins not showing up, and Looney not scoring, that's too much work for Curry at this age.
And Wiggins and
So,
Clay are
so
Draymond's
without
fault.
so and then Jordan Poole was supposed to be the other guy counted on for scoring. Chris Paul is not getting ready to come in and start scoring 20 a night. He's not getting ready to play more than 25 minutes a night. So where do you get offense from? He
Well,
has to score.
Yeah.
so Rod, I don't know how many times I have to say this, brother, but going into the offseason, whatever the plan is what the plan is. Now you know that to using your words, no, I'm gonna paraphrase because I don't remember your exact words. If Clay is a shell of himself now, then you know that you have to do more scoring. Not necessarily more offensively, but you have to do more scoring. So you have to restructure what you do offensively, Draymond. Well, that's the plan going into it. You know that Poole is gone. You know that Wiggins is sometime. None of these things were true before this. None of
Why
these
wouldn't
things
they
were true
do it?
before this.
They weren't
Hmm?
getting any offense before, AC. Throughout the
What?
playoffs, they were struggling.
Rodney, we're not talking about throughout the playoffs. We're talking about the plan for the season. We're
But
talking about
what's
the plan for
different?
the season.
They needed offense last year, and you just told everyone he's a high IQ guy. So if he's a high IQ guy and he sees that they're not getting any offense while he's on the floor or while he's off the floor, he has to shoot the ball at some
Rodney,
point.
if you're
He's
saying
supposed
that
to know
somebody is
this.
going 3 for 4, okay, that's fine. All right. So Draymond is not a high IQ player. Steve Kerr is
No,
not a high
nobody.
IQ
No, he
coach.
is a high IQ player.
Steve
He's a
I
Kerr
high
agree
is
with
not
IQ
a
you.
high
player.
He
IQ,
just
and,
doesn't want to shoot.
and
He
Steve
doesn't
Kerr is
want to. He's lost his confidence. It's not that
and,
he's trying not to.
and Steve Kerr is not a high IQ coach. So yeah, it's a perilous situation, and they should both just retire.
Steve Kerr
No,
is
so
And
gonna
they
now
should.
you just gonna now
Steve
you're
Kerr
taking
is
your
gonna
ball and
hold
you're
his
going
guy.
home.
Right. He's
I know
taking
what
to the extreme
Tony,
now.
No, I'm still
Tony's.
here.
Well,
You take
give
it
me
to
my
the
ball. I'm
extreme,
going
man.
home. No, man, we're not saying that.
I'm still here. But when it's okay, let's say this. It's irresponsible to say that the dude only plays on one side of the floor. So
Why
what we
is that
already agreed to
irresponsible?
we already agreed to disagree. So you don't agree that it's irresponsible.
Okay,
So
let's add on to it.
that.
He doesn't play consistently on both sides of the floor. That's the adjustment, because consistently he's not giving you buckets. Consistently 10 feet close to the basket, he's not shooting consistently. So he'll have that breakout game where he torched the Lakers in the playoffs for like 20 or whatever it was, when he was driving to the basket, slashing. But then the next game, he won't take any shots at all. Yes, he's always going to be in the game defensively, but on the offensive side, he's not doing it consistently.
So, okay, so the problem that I have, and then I do want to move on from this because it's not the Draymond podcast. Like, I know we joke about that, but I do want to move on from it because, like, go get your 100 million. Somebody's going to give it to you. But what I'm saying is, offensively versus scoring, two very different things. And if you're saying you want him to score more, that's one thing. If you're saying he's not showing up offensively, it's just not true. There's more than scoring. So if you're saying the things that he's doing offensively are not giving you what you need, that's one thing. But he is the facilitator. He is distributing the ball. He is screening. He is doing a lot of cerebral things with the ball. Yes, he's not scoring as much as you'd like him to. So my argument is that he will go into this season knowing that he's got a different role for this team. But the role needs to be, and here's the thing. I think that sometimes my good friend over there feels like people coach themselves. And yes, you have to be able to make adjustments on the fly and all of that. But if your role is your role, and they're talking about this, it's almost like Rod feels like he's the only one that sees certain things. And people are just silly if they can't immediately do, or if they don't do the things that he has prescribed for them to do. And I just feel like, these people are all making a lot of money, and it just can't be that simple. It just can't be that simple. But that's my feeling. Rod feels differently. It's all good. We still good. We just see it differently. And all I can say is he's gonna get the 100 million, and we'll just see how it works. And if he goes to Sacramento, they might mess around and win a championship. They might.
When you play, your instincts take over, regardless of what sport you play. Your instinct takes over and tells you exactly what to do or what the game needs when you can think the game. I'm sure Draymond knows that he needs to score at certain times, but he needs to do that more often. And I'm sure Steve Kerr would like him to, but Steve Kerr doesn't ask him to. Steve Kerr is a player's coach, and he's going to roll with his boys, win or lose. It doesn't mean that Steve Kerr doesn't want him to do certain things. Steve Kerr is going to go with it because they've gotten Steve Kerr this far.
All right, cool. So we've already disagreed, and we're moving on. We're moving on from this because we disagree. Cool. All right. So anything about the draft, Rod? What do you think?
Man, there's so much talk about Wembanyama. They've already given him a nickname. I think they call him Wambi now or something like that.
What is it? Really?
Yeah, he's he better be this generational player that they keep saying he's supposed to be. I don't see it. I don't care that he's 7'4" and shoots a 3. That doesn't impress me. Mm-hmm. I saw him some games in his French league, and I just don't see what the hype is about. I don't.
Okay. So you don't feel like they should start calling him future Hall of Famer Wembanyama at this point before he plays a single game in the NBA? No. So you don't agree with that, right?
I don't.
Boy, these titles that they give folks, they can't help themselves. And I'll say this, as a person of color, if you're going to label a foreigner a generational talent, no, I'm sorry, they said the talent of the millennium. So you know what a millennium is, right? So they're saying, like, definitely best player after 2000, but clearly they're also talking about he'll be the greatest player ever in the history of the world. it's very interesting. I don't know what he did in France to get him that. I just feel like people should come play, and then we'll see what happens. But let me close out the thought. So they usually put these titles on people like Jokic and all of that. So if we can get the conversation off of Jokic as far as non-US born players, then I'll take it, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, they love to put the cart before the horse. Go ahead, Sam.
It goes back to what we talked about last week in terms of that microwave. And it's comical that before a person has even laced up against NBA talent for 82 games, that we could just roll out the red carpet and say this person is the best. Because I've heard just this week listening to sports talk radio, he's a Kevin Durant upgrade. He's bigger, has a better handle, can shoot the lights out, and hopefully he is what everyone is saying that he is. But we've seen a lot of things on paper that sound a certain way, seem a certain way, but once the rubber meets the pavement, it's like, not as build. I want to give him a shot, but it's too early in the game. We haven't seen, the thing that concerns me, and the thing that concerns me is his stature. Yeah, you might be 7'4", 7'5". You're real thin. Are you going to be a thin, strong person how Kevin Durant was? Because Kevin Durant was thin in stature, but he was strong as hell, and he knew how to maximize his talent. So hopefully this kid comes in with that, because I can see elbow to the stomach and he's down. I can see him being brittle from just how he looks, but I guess we'll see in a couple of months exactly how this experiment, because it's simply an experiment until he's actually matched up with some grown men that have some dog in them. We'll see exactly what he's made from, because right now it's all speculative, and we'll see. I think the marketing engine behind it also, it's like you got to push the hype, because if not, what's going to draw an audience? So yes, you want to bill him as being the next great, the next superhero per se, but then we'll see.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, when Sam said it looks good on paper, but when the rubber meets the road, it always takes me back to my favorite topic about the rubber meeting the road and all things falling apart. Kevin Durant. And, he seems like a really cool dude, but outside of Golden State, it always looks good on paper for Durant, but it just never works out. And it's really, really interesting. I just wanted to say that. Yo, Rod, was it you, Rod? Did you send me something the other day about like the real Embiid and all those clips of him like being really nice to all of his opponents? My goodness. Yo, I know that sometimes there's a narrative out there, and I'm sorry for like turning the corner, but Embiid has a lot of extracurricular activity. Like once you cross his path in the paint, you gonna know he was there. And I didn't realize how intense.
A whole lot of
extracurricular activity.
Yeah. Nothing I had noticed, but now I'm going to pay attention to it. But nothing that I had noticed prior to now. But trying to trip people and all kind of stuff going on.
Mm-hmm. As someone that saw Embiid firsthand, for most of his career since I was there in Philly, man, it was always interesting that, when he would play the victim, a point guard would run into him and he's flopping on the ground. And I'm like, you big behemoth, how the hell is this a 6'1" point guard knocking you over? But when you would see him fall and then there's a turnover and they're off to the races and you see him stick his leg up to try to trip someone or grabbing the back of their shorts. And it's like, man, come on, get out of here with that. Get out of here.
This is why people call me
Elba.
And this is exactly why people call me like old thinking, when it comes to sports, because I can't get with superstars doing stupid stuff like that. I didn't grow up that way where you just flop and constantly try to trick the referees for a call to win the game. Like, no, you go out there and beat the person who's supposed to be the best.
You talking about Vladi in Sacramento? Oh, my bad. How do we get back to that? Yeah.
But Vlade was the known flopper when he was playing. Like, he was a outlier.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, he got really bad in Sacramento, boy. Goodness.
terrible,
Yeah.
but not everyone was trying to do that. They were
Yeah.
just
Oh yeah.
like, oh, Vlade is just doing what Vlade does. But now even Curry does it. Every time he takes a jump shot, he leaves his arm out there, kicks his leg up, falls to the side, and looks for a whistle. And I'm like, dude, just shoot it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate watching the NBA. The screens are terrible. The defense is terrible. Everyone's looking to try to figure out how to one up the refs, and then they say, "Oh, the refs are terrible." Like, dude, it's like putting out a fire. Like, you put out this fire over here, and then this little one pops up, and then this one pops up, and then this one pops up. I'm glad they've started to get rid of that hop step thing that they were doing. They have. I saw Malloy call LeBron for a crab dribble during the playoffs. I'm glad they've cleaned up some of this stuff, but it doesn't matter. They'll try to figure out some kind of loophole in the rules somewhere else and try to do the same. And the flopping is just not going to stop because there's not enough penalty for it. So it's just not going to stop. They're going to keep on throwing their legs forward and trying to get a whistle. And sometimes they get the whistle if the defender is coming A to B, they have to blow that foul. So defenders are put at a disadvantage because they rarely call an offensive foul on the offensive player for kicking a defender on a shot. I've hardly ever seen that in the NBA. But the flopping, man, it's hard to watch. The screens are hard to watch. I just watch illegal screens all day long. I still don't know the rule for a free throw violation. I mean, like, they just start running into the lane before a player even lets the ball go. I don't understand what the rule is. I know that they can go on the release, but they go before the release.
Yeah, they just have to wait for the gather. That's the rule. Just wait for the gather. No, that's the interpretation of the rule. So no, he did grow up, Cobbs, but he was just the first man. So I mean, they didn't call it growing up. It was just Rod, and he's still here. So shout out to Rod for being timeless in so many ways. Like, sometimes he talks on tape delay, sometimes he reacts on tape delay. But listen, man, if you were 999 years old and you were still here, nobody should be able to tell you anything. And doesn't need a cane and can run up and down the court like he's a kid. And be 999 and complaining about not being able to dunk anymore. Like, just the fact that you could still dunk at 950 was something, right? So, shout out to Rod for standing the test of time. That's my guy. All right, so we have something else that's sports related. Oh, Sam, did you have anything about the draft? Because we were on.
Let's talk for a minute. Let's kind of stay on draft, but drift a little bit off the talent aspect of it.
Yeah.
What's up with the draft? Like, the draft attire. What's up with the draft attire? Bruh. The suits and I don't know what is going on. And no, am I a fashion person? No, I'm not. Am I a fashion designer? No, I'm not. But from everything from flooded pants to suits with no shirt underneath to 25, the Mr. T starter kit / Migos look, is like, what in the hell? And then you had Grady Dick, who was drafted by the Raptors. He was dressed like, I don't know if you guys saw an old documentary, Pimps Up, Hoes Down. He was dressed like Mr. White Folks. He came out with the iridescent with the iridescent red jacket on. And I was just like, what is going on here?
Hey, man,
David Stern right now, God rest his soul, he's turning over in his grave saying, what in the heck is happening here? It's crazy.
I thought he was going to do a show in Vegas somewhere, man. He was getting ready to sing Tony Bennett covers.
Wow. That jacket was from the Siegfried and Roy collection, because that was just the Liberace collection or something. It looked crazy.
He looked like one of the spinners.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. So I don't draft fashion now. And I don't know if you guys saw Scoot Henderson, man, between the colorful grill at the bottom and all these chains, and it was a lot going on there.
Man, you know what? Now that Cobbs is on, Cobbs, when they get drafted, are their agents paying for this stuff up front and they give the money back? How does that work when they come to the draft with all this stuff? I know some of the designers asked them to wear certain things, but the jewelry and all of that stuff, how does that work? Let me know.
Yeah, no. Well, sometimes it's I'll answer before Cobbs, and then Cobbs could go since he lived it. But as a financial advisor, I had some clients, so it was. That's funny. If the bros can stunt. So, Rod, it's a combination. Like sometimes the agents will put up money. Other times you get stuff and it's the actual vendors putting it up. Like, okay, like Jacob is making jewelry for people. Jacob the jeweler is making jewelry for people based on this money that is going to come. Designers are giving stuff up. Well, sometimes it's the designers are giving it up just so that they can get more notoriety. But if it's something that you actually had to pay for, yeah, they're not having to pay for it, but they do have to give the money back once they earn the money. Yeah. So there you go. Confirmed by Cobbs. I mean, you just start talking about a draft and the car dealerships start calling, the car brokers start calling you, everything. Like they know that they're going to get it, and they want you to remember that they basically, before you got a dime, they took care of you, so that now that you get all this money, that you keep going back to them and you outfit your family through them and all of that. So, yeah.
So one thing I want to touch on real quick while we're talking about the draft, shout out to Troy Thompson, HU Bison. His twins got drafted on Thursday. And he's their agent. I looked and saw who the agents were for the top 10, and he's their agent. And I start to wonder if that's a good thing to have your dad or family member represent you. It didn't go well with the Ball brothers, and that's an extreme. I'm not saying that anyone will act like LeVar Ball, but is it, in your opinion, I'm just asking both of you guys, is that a good thing? Because there's so much that can go wrong. On the positive side, yep, we getting dad paid. But on the other side,
Big brother. Go
ahead.
Big brother. Troy is their brother. Troy is their big brother.
Oh, I thought he was their dad.
Their big brother.
Okay.
But go ahead, because their parents did support them too. So just go ahead. Same difference.
Yeah, I just wonder if that's a good thing. For me, I mean, personally, I don't like doing business with family, and my mom hears me say this all the time. I don't do business with family, church people, or friends at all. Especially people who I actually care about. I don't want to do business with you. Because if something goes wrong, that friendship or family relationship is ruined. And I don't like to do that.
Let me clarify one point about what you said, even though it's you saying it. Rod doesn't mean church people in general, guys. Like his mom is a pastor. He means people from a church that he's affiliated with. But if you approach him with a business idea and he
Oh
doesn't know
no,
you and you're a church
church
person,
people in general.
oh, you do mean in general. Oh boy. Okay. I tried to save him. All right. There you go,
No,
church people.
no, really, no. You had it right. People that I don't know, that's fine. But I have tried to help, a couple people in the past, and it's like, oh, can you do this? Well, the other person always did it this way. Well, go back to the other person if you want it done that way. Like, this is the way
Right.
I do things. And you're
Right.
not getting ready to pimp me because we know each other from church and have me do a whole bunch of work and not get paid. I don't want to have to come looking for you, and then it goes back. Oh, well, Rod, who goes to that church, he acts kind of funny, or he does this, or he does that. Hey, talk about me all you want. My mom's a pastor. I'm not. I have a whole new set of rules.
I was
I
like,
don't think
man,
it's
I'm
look.
working on
I don't
Hebrews
think it's
all day. Go ahead,
no.
I
Sam.
make it.
I don't
I
think it's
make that
a
very
one
clear.
size fits all. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
No
yeah,
extremes. Yeah.
yeah. There's definitely not a one size fits all, man. I've done business with family members, but I'm also a big proponent of, regardless of who you're doing business with, make sure that contractually your business is right.
Yeah.
We're not going to do any, handshake deals on the strength of, I've known you since we were in kindergarten. No, everything is
Right.
contractual. Everything is, it's going to be a legally bound agreement that we have. And, it's unfortunate if we end up in court or if there's, something has to take place in that regard. But I always make sure that, I'm protecting whatever I have involved in this agreement. Um, I've also done business with a person who I didn't have a long withstanding relationship with. That went well. I had another time in which it didn't go as well as it should have, and we ended up in court. So I just think you perform the due diligence. Kind of looking at Anthony's shirt right now, legal hustle, you make sure legally things are in order on your end to protect you. But I understand what you're saying, Rod. Also, sometimes when you're so close to a person, things can get real shady and go left. And yeah, before you know it, you're in a situation. So why even get in that situation potentially? So I get it.
Yeah. I mean, I did business with, yeah. So for me, I don't like to deal in extremes. I've had good situations on both sides, and then the worst situation ever was with someone who was really close to me, um, and it was on a handshake, and it was a disaster. So learn from that. Like, it's kind of like when you have that difficult conversation with your fiance and you start talking about their prenuptial agreement. It's like, well, if you love me, da 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 da. It's like, well, if this thing is gonna work and it's gonna last the entire time, if this is how you feel, if it's gonna last the entire time, then the prenup won't even come into play. But in case that it does, da 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 da. So it's kind of like, all right, yeah, let's get this contract in place. Yeah, I trust you, and you trust me, but who knows what can happen, right? Right, Marcel? Because I certainly did trust you, but if I ever find you, it's gonna be a problem. It's gonna be a problem. Shout out to my guy Jason
One,
Dillon,
one
who
of
is
my,
clearly. What's up?
oh,
What'd you say,
go ahead,
Rob?
go ahead and finish that. I was
Yeah,
getting ready
shout.
to add to this, but go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna shout out Jason because I know he's watching right now. He sent me a screenshot or a picture of
Okay,
he's watching on YouTube. Go ahead, Rob.
gotcha. One of my favorite songs, man, is a song called "Vision" by my boy Tracy Lee, who went to Howard with me. Uh, he, might remember him from that song "Party Time" back in the day, hip hop
Yeah.
song. And Tracy has a song named "Vision" called, and he talks about the way he was done in the music business, but the song is really personal because it's about other guys. Well, it's about him, but he worked with other guys who went to Howard with us, who he was close to. Um, and he uses names. He named drops. He doesn't hold back, and that's one of my favorite, favorite, favorite songs because he's basically saying, "Hey, if I can, throw this out there, it might help people in the future." To sum it up, but he talks about the way he had contracts. They changed his contract after he signed, and then rush the album so it would be you know put out there by a certain quarter where if where they can alter the numbers for it and they pocketed the money that he was supposed to get from royalties overseas. I mean, like he basically said there was a lot he didn't know when he signed the contract, and they didn't look out for him. Like, they were supposed to be his boys, and they just didn't look out for him. So he was walking around with a hot record that was playing on the box and all these other platforms and had no money, and then had to jump through hoops to just get the little bit of money he could get after everything was done. And we talking about he had a song
You
with
talking about
Biggie
many,
on
you
there
talking about Many Faces?
that I
Many
just
Faces.
yeah, the Many Faces album. And that song was that probably, in my opinion, may have been Biggie's hottest verse
Okay.
ever.
Oh,
Like, there's a line in there that I just listened to, was really on the top of his game. Um, but he sold a lot of records, and that dealing with friends, it
so,
blew up.
so
So
yep.
I don't know, man. That's just I think
hold on. The
it
topic is
it works if maybe if your friends are just as invested as you and they have just as much to lose as you.
Mhm.
If I'm saying that right, maybe that
it, it could still vary because they could actually have more to lose than
you know,
you and then just still find a way to blow it all up. It just depends. Because you could have a good thing and somebody just decide, okay, I'm having a crazy situation right now, so I'm gonna blow it all up like that fool did with me. But here,
right.
shout out to Tracy Lee. Hold on. Let's do this. Right.
I pose no punches, flows in abundance. These southern alumnus among us. T. Lee, built to fight the power like Isley. Raw, doctorate of law. One hell of a story, one hell of a star, but never starstruck. Even when your boy made hits with Big and Bus, signed them up pictures affiliated with Puff. But we're mad over here that bread wasn't enough. Struggling while party time was still bubbling. Got 10 cents a record sold, had from a publishing. Hey yo, Mac, where that check at? Matter of fact, hey yo, Wayne, where that check at? I wasn't forced to sign Jack, I confess that. But short of 10 stacks, and I'm supposed to accept that. Change the contract after I signed, so I guess that. Now I gotta jump through hoops to get my bread back. No, y'all got it, I'm off that. F that, the game.
Yeah.
That song is so deep to me, man. It makes my skin crawl listening to it.
Yeah.
And all these cats I know,
Yeah.
they really kicked it hard together. Matt Middleton is an attorney in New York. And D. Angeletti is, well, everybody else knows him as the Mad Rapper who was on the big albums on Ready to Die. So that's hard to hear, but man, it does something to me.
Yep. Shout out to, I don't know why. I don't even like Tommy. No, I'm just kidding. What's up, Tommy? Tommy Loera is here, and in typical Tommy form, comes at the end of the podcast. I'm about what's the topic today. It's whatever
What's
you
up,
want it to be.
Tom?
It's fake friends, Tommy. So you'll be right at home. Tommy is the AD at Salesian High School in LA. Shout out to that's also his alma mater. So shout out to Tommy. What up? What up? And yeah, you ain't never lied, Anthony Cobbs. Yeah, they seem to be killing the game, as a crew. That absolutely worked out. So it's almost like 2003 till infinity for them. So good for them. All right, so we have this topic, and Rod likes to do that look on his face, that look like, how dare you? How dare you question me on this? Sometimes. But we're going to see where we go with this now. Because Rod was supposed to actually do some reading. He said, I'm going to dig deeper and I'm going to show you. So here we are. But I know he forgot. So here's the thing. Rod's stepfathers have banded together in the SEC.
Wow.
And
Oh, I did forget. My bad. Yes, I did. We just talked about that the other day. I did forget. You're right.
So
I didn't know
Rod
where
was
you were going with that, but yes, I did.
No,
No,
Rod
that
was
was
supposed to
just
talk
was that just yesterday?
morning. It was yesterday morning. Yeah. No, it wasn't. It was
Okay.
it was Thursday. It was Thursday. So you had time. You had time. But you probably had a bad connection. I get it. It's cool. So so maybe we'll talk about it later, but we could just touch on it because we're gonna close out soon. But the SEC football coaches have essentially banded together and decided that the NIL is a bad thing. Like it needs to be revamped, and they want Capitol Hill to help them out. So I think it's a ridiculous notion that they want to go drop these limitations on it. But Rod was making the point, and tell me if I'm saying it wrong. Rod was making the point that coach, so they're trying to take away, they're saying that they've lost their competitive advantage, right? And Rod is saying that similarly, they have a competitive advantage because coaches' salaries are essentially unlimited. So the schools that bring in more money can pay more. And so that's a competitive advantage over the schools that can't pay those coaches. Is that fair? That's
Pretty
basically what.
much. Yeah.
And my point was, it's not the same kind of competitive advantage. Like, we're talking about the actual coach, and some schools are just going to. Oh, he was talking about a salary cap for coaches, and that's where we differed, because his example was, if you had a salary cap of $2 million, then maybe Howard could get Alabama's coach, or a coach would consider going to Howard over going to Alabama because it was going to be the same money.
Well,
And
no, not that, but other teams would be in play, is what I said. You'd have more
okay,
you'd have more schools in play that,
Mhm.
that could get his services.
and then my argument is that they wouldn't get their services; they would just go do something else. They would be consultants in the NFL or something, because that cap doesn't make any sense to me. So that was basically
Well,
our point of
but we're not
contention.
talking about them leaving. We're just talking about what the current status is for them as for coaching right now. If all things are equal, like they're trying to limit what kids could get in NIL, and nobody's limiting the coaches. They get what they get. It's a free
Yeah,
market.
Well,
I don't think they're related. So that was our point of contention right there. Go ahead, Sam.
and I think their argument is, these SEC coaches want to continue to have supremacy. They want to dominate, and that's
That's all
why
it
now
is.
that they see with NIL, it's kind of leveling things off more than it has ever been. And so I think that's why they're crying now to say, well, we're not benefiting in the same manner that we've benefited from the beginning. So now, since we don't like the way things are going, we want to have, the watchdog come in and say, we're going to cut this thing down so that we can continue to dominate and be the supreme almighty conference.
Right.
And only a handful of teams, if that many, will be dominant, which is unfair as well. So, personally, I like NIL for, smaller schools or who aim to benefit from NIL. Smaller schools that would never really even get a look now are getting a look because, they have more resources handy. Because, of course, an Alabama is going to be Alabama. It's easy for them to re-up because they're on, a major TV deal, and so many players are drafted from there every year. But I'm like, all right, now you're going to cry foul because you're not dominating as much as you once did, which is, come on, that's weak.
Right. And it's no different than it was in the NBA. Like, what's the player's name? Hunter, that went to Jackson State and chose Jackson State over. He's like the poster child of it now. Like like once he signed with Jackson State, they were like, oh no, we see where this is going. Enough is enough. We're not going to. And it's the same thing that happened when Kevin Garnett signed his deal in Minnesota and got that big contract. It was like, oh, he's the poster child for we need a hard cap now. We're not going to have these any more of these, 10-year, $120 million contracts no more. We got to cap it at 7. I mean, like, it's the same thing. It's like, no, we're letting this get out of control. There's too much money. Well, why?
Yeah. So I don't think that we're talking about the same thing. And this is my opinion, because you're talking about salaries. And so you're talking about collusion, right? Between the owners saying, we don't want, like, yes, this team feels like Kevin Garnett is worth it because he's the cornerstone of their franchise, but we don't feel like we want to pay our cornerstones this for that long. So let's get together and reduce that. That's one thing. They are not, this is what I keep saying, they're not paying this money in the NIL. It's money coming from somewhere else that is, to Sam's point, and this was your point also, leveling the playing field. I don't think that's the same as a salary cap. And it's not the same as a salary cap for coaches. It's like that we're talking about two very different things. And oh, by the way, did you look up Angel Reese's money yet? Because she's top 20, all athletes.
Okay. No, that's part of it is it's similar, not necessarily the same, but similar. And the collusion is the same. I mean, like, they're banding together. They actually went to DC together to try to get this altered or stopped. Like, that's collusion. It's no different than what the NBA coaches were doing with Kevin Garnett's situation. And what I was saying before when I talked to you Thursday is now these players don't have to go to a big market team. They're getting enough now where they can go to a Jackson State and still get paid. Or a Middle Tennessee State and still get paid. They don't have to go to the big city anymore. And they started doing that.
Or you could go to LSU and be the women's basketball player and get more money than anybody else in the school. Yes, true, I get that.
But what I'm saying overall is all of these players have options now that they didn't have before.
Yeah, but Rod, there's no argument there. Like, we all see that. We all agree to that point. But with you compare it to the coaches' salaries, and then now you talk about the NBA where you're talking about owners. You're not even talking about coaches. So you're talking about SEC coaches, NBA owners, and these are not this. None of this is the same or even close.
The way they get the money is not the same, AC, but the similarities are what they're trying to do to stop the money or the options that they have available. That's what I'm talking about. When you have them, the players getting money from NIL deals, it opens up other teams because they don't have to go to certain teams to get this. They can go other places. Just as if you limited the money for coaches, other teams will be in play. Now you might say, well, they wouldn't want to go there. Maybe that's true, but the other teams will be in play because now, let's just say, and I just threw out there when I talked to you about it the other day, if you got a 2 million cap, there are a bunch more teams that can afford 2 million versus the 7 or 8 that only a few teams could match right now. I don't know what Nick Saban or somebody or Brian Kelly's contract is, but it's got to be over 6 or 7 million a year, and most teams in the country cannot pay that. But if you said, hey, we're going to decrease what they can make, now you got more teams that can pay, and that coach has meant that many more destinations that they could go to. You have more teams that are interested in saying, hey, I can get this coach now, possibly. I have a shot. Not that they can get him, but they at least have a shot.
Question for you, Rod. So real quick. So Saban, he's set to make 10.9 million. He made 10.9 million this past season. So my question for you, are you talking just Power 5 conferences, the Power 5 conference, or you're talking just D1 competition across the board
for
that, the cap on the coach's salary? How you were saying just the random 2 million a season?
No, when I was talking to AC about it, I meant D1 period. Mm-hmm. Like, let's just say D1 coaches were capped off at $2 million across the board.
And we're not talking Power 5. We're talking D1 as a whole.
Well, his example was Howard in Alabama. So, yeah, he's talking about D1.
Okay, yeah.
Just D1 as a whole. Yeah, so now, and so what I'm saying is, if you cap their money off, you got more teams in play for their services.
We understand. I understand that. We all understand that, but that's not the same as this NIL thing. It's like, it's not even close.
But what I'm saying with the NIL thing is it's similar but because they don't get money from the schools, they're getting the NIL deal. It opens the playing field for other teams. Just conversely, they don't have to go to Alabama. They can go to a Jackson State. They can go to a HBCU and still get the same amount of money. And it just opens the field.
Right. So we have that. That has nothing to do with the coaches.
All I did was say it in reverse, AC. I'm not understanding why you don't understand what I'm saying. These coaches in the SEC have a competitive edge. How many other coaches are making 10.9 million a year, or even close to that? I'm willing to bet that every SEC coach in the conference makes at a minimum 4. At a minimum.
AC, I think we're right.
Not pay that.
Well, okay, but
I think Rod's point. I think Rod's point is more so leveling the playing field across the board.
Right.
That's what he's talking about. He's not trying to compare each one of these to one another. I think he's talking about, how do you level the playing field across the board? One option would be cap on the coaches' salaries. The SEC coaches are talking about a cap or removal of NIL. So he's talking about, how do you level the playing field across the board? I get it. It's different areas that he's touching upon. And I think that's where we're kind of getting deep in the weeds and it's getting confusing to you. But I think he's talking about leveling the playing field across the board.
That's all it is.
But it's
if you
not
go level 1,
you need to level. But it wouldn't level the playing field across the board, because you still so we're talking about something that's unrealistic. First of all, that we're going to cap coaches. It doesn't even make any sense to cap coaches' salaries. Like, their argument to cap the NIL makes more sense than the argument to cap the coaches' salaries. And I don't agree with their argument to cap the NIL. But why are we even talking about capping coaches' salaries? And even if we did get that, the playing field still wouldn't be level, because you have these TV deals where all this money is coming in, and that money goes to those facilities. So you still have facilities at Alabama, whether you have Nick Saban there or not. You have these facilities that this TV deal paid for, that is going to give you that your facilities are going to be leaps and bounds beyond Hampton's facilities. And I purposely didn't say Howard, because I didn't want you to get deep in the weeds on that. versus Hampton's facilities, or for that matter, versus Western Oregon's facilities. Even if they have Nick Saban at Western Oregon, you still don't have enough money to right the ship with these facilities, so you're not going to have a level playing field. That's why you have Power 5 and you have Group of 5. And that's just FBS. Then you have FCS, which we used to call 1AA. It's like we're talking about something that just it's first of all, it's not realistic, and second of all, I still don't see how we're having this discussion in relation to the NIL. And then you even brought in NBA owners. So now we're talking about players, we talking about in one area, we talking about coaches in another, and now we're talking about owners in a whole different area. I just don't get how any of this stuff is related.
I only brought that up, man, because of the money factor and the collusion act, not because I'm trying to I'm just telling you what happened when the money started getting bigger for the players. That's it. The thought of a cap for coaches, I just threw that out there as an example of how ignorant it sounds to try to limit the players' money when you don't even control it or give it to them. And the facilities thing, these players nowadays don't care about the facilities as much as they care about taking care of themselves. They want money. If they can go, if they go to a lesser,
the response wasn't to that. We're clearly not just talking about players, right? So I'm giving you your coach argument where we have the same salary for coaches across the board, and Nick Saban is at Western Oregon. Now I'm saying the facilities do come into play because strength and conditioning and all of that, like you're going to be a better conditioned athlete at Alabama than you're going to be at Western Oregon.
Talking about all that. We just talking strictly about the money.
We have to talk about all of that if we're talking about a level playing field.
No, we're just talking about. I'm just saying that the other teams are now in play. Because there are some smaller schools that have great facilities.
Not Alabama facilities.
Well, I don't know because I've never been to Alabama, but there are smaller schools that are on record as having excellent facilities, better than certain FBS teams. So I don't know how great that is, but there are some teams that have some schools that have great facilities, but what I'm saying is they can be in play now. The places that are in great locations can be more in play now when they can afford this. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's not gonna happen. They're not gonna ever cap coaches' pay. I'm just saying that it's ridiculous for these coaches to get together and try to band together to stop these kids from getting what other kids are getting.
Yeah, but when the statement is it's ridiculous, when the statement is it's ridiculous for them to do this because their salaries are not capped, that's what I have a problem with. And that was your statement. So
that was my statement. Nobody's controlling the coaches, so don't control the players. If it's a free market, let it be free.
But then we need to note that it's not even all the coaches. It's the SEC, and that's only one of 5 Power 5 conferences.
I get that, but that's what I'm referring to, AC. I'm not. But you're going to take what I say and just spread it across the board. I'm not trying to say that it's all coaches. I'm saying that this group of coaches, what they were doing was nonsense. The other stuff I just used as example to make it seem absurd because it is.
But okay, I hear you. I don't feel like you were saying this is as absurd as this. If that's what you're saying, then that's fine. But that's what I just said. Like it's like what you said makes less sense than what they're arguing. But if you were saying it's all absurdity, then that's one thing. But I don't think that that's what I was receiving in that moment.
AC, you're in the weeds with this. You're in the weeds with this thing. As I said, Rob was throwing out various examples of how to level the playing field. I think what's throwing things off is, yes, the coach's argument is different from the NIL argument. The owner's argument is different from the coach's argument. So it's a lot of different things that he's talking about, but the thread that's tying them all together is how do you level the playing field? And that was his point. Like, I can see it clearly because he's talking about leveling the playing field across the board. And that's the thread. Yes, absurd. Some of the stuff he's saying, I don't think it would ever happen. And I think this is just a conversation, but he's talking about how do you level the playing field. There's a song that we can wrap this part up. Look, we can wrap this part up because we're not going to agree on everything he's saying. Anthony, this goes out to you.
Okay. So, all right. So, when your interpretation, Sam, was that Rod was talking about leveling the playing field. That's what you said. Your interpretation.
That was my interpretation, that he's talking about leveling the playing field.
So when I responded to that and said, well, it still wouldn't be level because ... He said that's not what he was saying. Remember that. He said it wasn't what he was saying.
Please,
I will now move on.
You started getting off in the facilities, and I said, we just talking about the money.
But then that's not leveling the
playing field. Talking about, Nick Saban wouldn't go to Hampton or Western Oregon or whatever else you said.
I didn't say that he wouldn't go there. I said if he go, it's not leveling the playing field just because it's the coach's money. That's what I'm saying. It's not.
But I'm only speaking about the money aspect. I'm not speaking about facilities and boosters and speaking engagements and all the other stuff. I'm just speaking strictly about the salary. That's it. And I'm saying that if coaches had a basic salary, that more teams would be in play.
So,
and I'm saying when the players,
why are you saying that?
What do you mean? Why am I saying that? Because that's how it is for players. Now that they get money, that more teams are in play because they don't have to go to Alabama and Georgia to get money anymore.
Okay, so again, okay, but what does that have to do with the coaches? That's okay. We're good.
The money just opens the playing field. Is basically what I'm saying. AC, that's it.
So then you're not saying that it's ridiculous. See, that's my point. You're not saying that it's absurd. You're talking about how this is another way to level the playing field. That's not saying it's absurd, and that's been my point. You didn't think it was absurd.
I don't understand where you're going. It's absurd that they would actually put a cap on coach's salary. They're not going to do that, and I understand that. What I'm saying is if they did, I said that earlier. I said it even
30 seconds ago. You didn't say it earlier. All right.
AC, I said exactly what I just said. They can go any place other than Alabama and Georgia and get the same money.
There's a reason why we came to the podcast with this. It's because your argument made a lot of sense to you on the phone, and it made no sense to me. So I was like, let's take it to the podcast. So we brought it to the podcast. We can pick it up another time because I don't care what Sam says. This thing is not tied together. And then I threw out collusion, and then we're talking about these coaches colluding. They can't collude. They don't have the power that NBA owners have. So it's not collusion if we're just talking about SEC coaches who don't have any power to stop NIL.
You keep on going to all these other factors. I'm only speaking about.
You said it was collusion. You said it was collusion, yes?
Why is it not?
Because you have to have power to collude.
So SEC coaches don't have power?
They don't have power to collude in this situation. No, they can collude on who they give scholarships to or something like that, but no, they don't.
Okay.
They don't.
Wait a minute. If they don't have power to collude, why would they go to DC to push this? If they don't have any power, how would that even happen?
Well, listen, there are frivolous lawsuits all the time, Sam. Let's not play like we don't know that. People will try whatever they can try. But if they had this power, they wouldn't have to go to court. They could just be like, NIL's done. They don't have the power. They are trying to get people riled up and trying to make it so that this change happens, but they don't have power.
You don't think that's power? You don't think that they can convince some coaches from other conferences to feel the same way?
It still doesn't matter, right? This is federal.
It doesn't matter.
Who are more
respected than the SEC coaches in college football?
Right. They are. You don't think? Okay, so to your point, don't you think they already tried to convince these other people who are not going with them? Their argument is against the people going to these schools. So those coaches are not going to go with them. They're on an island. Your whole argument was that it was leveling the playing field, right? Yes, the NIL does sort of level the playing field. Yes. So these coaches are mad about that. Yes. The other coaches are not going to band with them. And mind you, it's not just football, but the other coaches are not going to band with them to shut their own stuff down. And oh, by the way, how do their athletes feel about them going to Capitol Hill? That's a whole different topic. How does Alabama feel about that? The players. How does Georgia players feel about that? Because now you're trying to limit our money. Different topic. All I'm saying was when you certain things that you try to tie together don't go together. That's it. We disagree. You've convinced Sam, but I think that this whole thing is a lot deeper than Sam's interpretation of it. But we can go ahead and close out. I just knew that we needed to at least bring it up on the podcast. And we could talk some more later. Shout out to my guy Yaya who came through, Cobbs, Tommy Loera, my man Jason was watching. Sam is obviously here. We didn't see Elaine today. Nisha even came through earlier. Anybody else who's watching or listening, shout out to you. Please like the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, make comments, share it, all of that. It's on all of the DSPs, and then obviously you could catch us on Facebook Live, Twitter. You can catch the link through Twitter. You can watch us on Twitch. You can watch us on YouTube. You can watch us on LinkedIn. We're on all the places. So just catch us. Just check us out. I appreciate Sam coming through. I appreciate Rod as always. And the beauty of this is we don't have to agree. We don't have to agree. And we clearly don't. But guess what Rod's not doing? Rod's not hanging up on me. Rod's not saying, fuck this, and then getting off the podcast because Rod, we can have a debate. Tillery, you don't have to run, right? You don't have to run twice, right? Tillery, right? We're not better than that, Tillery. All right. Anyway, this is episode 108 of the Collective Podcast. This was fun. This was absolutely fun. Hey, thank you very much, Anthony Cobbs, for coming through. Hey, Cobbs, 12:15 at the Drew. At least stream it if you can't come through. Yo, thanks for coming through. Sam, we're gonna let you close out. However, Rob, we're gonna put a timer on you. Okay, I'm gonna give you you got 1 minute and 5 seconds, and I'm gonna give you your 45-second warning, your 30-second warning, and your 15-second warning. Your closeout was 11 minutes last week.
You know what? I'm getting ready to start timing all of your stuff because you perfect around here. You do nothing wrong.
No. I'm not. But check this out. Look, try this. When you have a something, right, with one of your loved ones, and you want to really emphasize your not necessarily your empathy, but you empathize with how you made them feel, right? You recognize how you made them feel, and you're sorry, right? Not only say it, but like, give them the sign language, give them the sign that you're sorry, just as a little bit of emphasis. So, Rod, I'm not sorry, but I love you, brother. Okay, go ahead and close out, Sam.
All right. So as we close out episode 108, man, I just want to say the best thing about the Collective Podcast for me is the fact that, yes, it's a collective, but everyone's opinions, as absurd as some of them are, everyone's opinions are respected. And man, we have truly a good time, man. I can't encourage everyone enough to take some time, even if it's a phone call, a text, a FaceTime, look, a letter, a card, reach out to your loved ones just to say that you love them, because, we all don't know when our expiration date is, but we do know that it's inevitable. So make sure that you let meaningful people know how much they mean to you. Man, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Thank you for letting me be a guest on here from time to time. Seems like timing has just aligned for me recently, so I've been able to join you guys for a few weeks consecutively. So I appreciate you guys. AC, You know, we're down like 4 flat tires. Although Rod is my new big bro, the voice of reason, aka committed to Android life, which I don't understand that, and I'm gonna try to convince him to come over to the dark side. But just know, man, I got nothing but love and respect for you brothers. Shout out to all my loved ones from Morris Brown College, Seton Hall University. Shout out to HU, Howard. Shout out to all the Bruins and my family, my friends, man. Much love to all you guys. I pray that you have a great weekend and a good week. Peace.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for that, Sam. Rodney O.
Hey,
65-second warning.
Everybody, here we go. Man, I'm loving the fact that my Dodgers beat Houston last night, and they seem to be playing well the last few games. I'm headed to Hemet to yet another funeral of a close friend. So, on the back of Sam, hey, hug your family, love on them as much as possible. And again, I'll probably be riding to Vision by T. Lee, and I'm gonna have to talk to him and try to get him on the podcast so we can get deeper into that song, because he knows, and I've told him many times that that's probably one of my favorite songs. Well, it's one of my favorite songs ever, but it's probably one of a couple of favorite songs that I have by him. So everybody just stay blessed.
Shout out. Shout out, Rod. Appreciate that.
Just like my old John X that 4 years of confusion for me to take a step back, for me to create my own movement. X-Lax, for me to see us singing in the music. Real rap, they don't really use it. This shit is a death trap. Bang up, hold up, they come to expect that. Use it for amusement and on to the next act. But hopefully my story helps to correct that. No need for
Yeah, if you get a chance, check out Vision by Tracy Lee. Like Rod said, just sometimes you want to hear. Like I get chills listening to it, but I'm a guy who just loves the lyrics of songs, and I listen to them, and they're important to me, and that's why I'm probably one of the few people on earth who actually comes to tears when I hear "Blasphemy" by Tupac, aka Machiavelli. Like it's just that deep for me. Like there are, it's A Change Is Gonna Come by Sam Cooke. It's What's Going On by Marvin Gaye, and it's Blasphemy by Tupac. That it's gonna be Waterworks for me. It's wild that's that way. But check out Vision by Tracy Lee. It's a very it's just an important song just to know about. Like to Sam's early point, and it made Rod get to the song, just about doing business in general. But if you are in the entertainment business and you're dealing with other people, it's not foolproof, and things are not bulletproof even when you think that they are. So try to protect yourself as much as possible. I can make all of the security jokes that I want, but y'all know, the androids are not safe. So I'm gonna tie it to that too. It's like, having that contract is like having an iPhone as opposed to having an Android. Like when you have an Android, everybody out there can know your business because it's floating out there. Nothing is encrypted, and then almost everything is encrypted with the iPhone. So there's that big difference. So to Sam's point, have those contracts, right? Like don't just do the handshake, even though you really want to. And it's funny because I do a lot of lacrosse signing, and all of my like deals are handshakes. And then now I'm pitching a much bigger entity right now, and I'm definitely gonna put together a contract. And I'm cool with this dude. We handshake, we hug, all of that, but he's getting a contract for sure, because that's not going to make me sleep well at night. And everything has pretty much changed since Marcel got me anyway. But listen, hug your loved ones, kiss your loved ones, at least reach out to them if you can't. Listen, I'm terrified being Rodney's friend, and I'm not making a joke right now, because Rod loses a lot of friends. Rod goes to a lot of funerals, and I don't think he even goes to all of them, because he and his mom talked about this thing where she's advised him not to go to everything, because then you get used to it and just all of that. And it's just, I pray for Rod and his friends and family a lot, and I'm one of them. So I pray for all of us, just because Rod seems to be touched more than anyone that I know by tragedy. So blessings to this man's family, Rod, and to you and your family. Um, Sam, blessings to your family and friends. Speaking of Sam's circle of family and friends, and also his brothers, I saw Javon Moore again on Wednesday. That's one of his brothers, who also went to UCLA. So shout out to Jay Moore, who Anthony Cobbs knows from UCLA, and then Sam knows through Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. So just be around your people as much as you can, and don't sweat the small stuff, for real. Don't sweat the small stuff, and if you can meet people where they are, do that. And if they keep walking on you, keep running over you, then at some point you got to just pull out. But do your best, know that you gave your all, and that's really important. So we appreciate you guys for coming through to episode 108 of the Collective Podcast. Rod, I love you, man. Thanks for always showing up. I give you stuff for showing up right at the bell, but I figure that's probably what you did in high school. You probably didn't start coming early till you got to college, when they would close the doors, right at the time of the class. And clearly you're a rebel, so you're not going to show up early. But we do love you and appreciate you. Sam, thanks for coming through. And episode 108 of the Collective Podcast. Last week I signed off and I did it wrong. I left the studio instead of ending the broadcast. So thank y'all for coming through episode 108 of the Collective Podcast. Who do you believe in? Thanks for coming through. Y'all have a good one. Peace.